In this episode, you'll discover the one word that allows podcasters to grow and monetize much faster. Hello, I'm Tygo O'Shea.
And I'm Anthony Winery.
And in this episode, you'll learn a simple mental model that will help you level up your podcast growth.
Why so many podcasts fail after years of posting good content, even when they're being consistent.
And finally, a question you can ask yourself to gain clarity around why your podcast isn't growing. Which is the name of the show.
So look, Tyg, I think me and you have had our fair share of working with podcasters and, seeing the ins and outs of different types of shows. And within that time, we've also had the privilege of speaking to tons of podcasters getting 100,000, 1 million downloads per month.
That's true.
Making 6, 7, some even 8 figures. Can you imagine?
Eight figures,
right? And during that time, I think we've found very specific traits and characteristics that separates those who are in the top 1% and those who always just stay stuck with slow and steady growth. They never take things to that next level. You speak to them 2-3 years down the line and they're stuck in the same spot.
Right.
And oftentimes people think the differentiating factor is the strategy, right? They think of the tactics.
The hacks, the
hacks,
secrets.
right?
And don't get me wrong, it can be, but that's the tip of the iceberg, right?
That's the tip of the iceberg. After interviewing and coaching 350 plus podcasters, I think it's pretty clear, mate, that a massive difference between those who find success quickly and those who don't comes down to their ability to ask a question of why. Here's the thing. Most podcasters go through a similar situation when it comes to trying to grow their podcast.
Okay.
They launch a show. They have a bunch of buzz. People love it because it's something new. Social media is interested.
Yeah.
Their family and friends are nosy. You know what people are like. But then eventually things start to kind of plateau.
100%.
And then you try different strategies. Posting on social media, promoting your podcast, getting guests on your show. However, oftentimes when we speak to podcasters who are stuck in this state a lot of the times, and we ask them, hey, look, you've been podcasting for X amount of years, 2, 3, 4 years, and the show isn't growing. Why do you think that is? Silence. And it might say something along the lines of, okay, well, I've tried different things, but nothing seems to work. That's basically the conversation. That's as deep as it goes in terms of
That is as deep as it goes. Honestly, I'm trying to think of an actual response that we tend to get, but there's just pretty much no conversation that comes from it.
Now, they might say, I'm busy, I've not had focus, I've not done this, I've not done that. But in terms of, hey, look, why isn't the podcast actually growing? They don't really know, right? And that's not always their fault. Sometimes you just don't know because you're not aware of why things might be happening. However, we noticed, Tyg, right, that the podcasters who are growing much faster, who are making way more money, what do they obsess over?
Well, they get to the bottom of the reasons why something is a reason working, right? So I can think of, let's take 2 different client situations, for example. Mm-hmm. So we, obviously, in the academy, the Get More Listeners Academy, our personalized one-on-one growth and monetization program, we get people booked on podcasts as a guest, right? Because it's a great way to get exposure.
Yes.
And for some of that, we need to pitch, right? So there is pitching involved, and there's a lot of emails they're sending, and to some extent, it's a numbers game, right?
Yes.
And we find that some clients, they get off to an amazing start, and they get tons of bookings rolling in. And we find that others is a bit of a slow burn, and we might have to tweak the pitch or tweak some angles here and there, and we might face a good amount of rejection before we finally find what works, right?
Yes.
Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Now, I can think of 2 different examples where with one person, we'd sent out a good bunch of pitches, I don't know, let's call it 100 or 50, I'm not sure. And the client was like, oh, this isn't working, I'm never going to grow, I'm just upset that my podcast isn't growing, I thought I would be here by now, and I don't know what to do, right? And that wasn't just one outburst, by the way. This is that type of feeling over a number.
I was gonna say, mate, because I think if it's just that to begin with, let's be honest, if you've tried a strategy and you thought it was gonna work, you believe it was gonna work,
yeah,
and you don't find the results straight away, it can be a bit annoying. I go to the gym, do some crunches, look in the mirror, I don't have abs, I'm pretty annoyed. I've done all that work, nothing's paid off yet. Now, it's okay to have an outburst once in a while around frustration. We all get frustrated, whether it's business, whether it's podcast, whether that's growing your audience, whether that's personal branding. We all have moments where we're just a bit frustrated. That's fine. That's okay. But to us, what's not okay and what doesn't help anyone in that situation, and definitely doesn't help you, the individual who's frustrated, is if your frustration ends there and you're just in that state forever.
Yeah.
You're just in a state of, oh, this isn't working, this is frustrating. Now, that's what oftentimes, again, holds most podcasters back, or even business owners, whatever it might be. But what's the other side to this?
Well, the other side, and this, I'm not just making this up, this is, again, I'm thinking of specific people here. The other side is, again, it comes back to asking why, like you say. And let's continue with the example of pitching to be a guest on other podcasts, getting lots of rejections. on one hand, it can be like, oh, this isn't working. Why is it not working? I'm annoyed it's not working. A different person that we know that we helped grow their podcast stopped and asked why. And how that manifested in this situation was actually asking why to the people who were rejecting, right? And not like, oh, why won't you have me on your podcast? How rude of you. No, not in an entitled, demanding way, but just, oh, why? I'm curious, is there something else you would rather discuss on your podcast? Is there a different topic that would maybe work better for your audience? And through lots of questioning and just having that natural curiosity, having the patience, having the resilience, because, of course, getting rejected is not always easy, right? And with all this said, sometimes this is the end of a bad day, right? So I'm not to say it's something that comes naturally all the time, but through lots of questioning, lots of patience, lots of asking why, and persistence to get to the bottom of why the pitches were getting rejected, this client managed to turn a bunch of no's into yeses and actually get people that flat out rejected her from the first email come back and say, actually, let's do this topic. And they managed to agree on something, right? And these are big shows as well. These are like top 2% shows. I think it was one specifically.
That's super interesting, man. I think, again, that's just the power of simply reflecting and asking, well, why? Both internally to yourself. Yeah, look inside, guys, look inside. Going internally into yourself, but also it's about actually actively seeking the answers on an external.
Right.
For this example, it manifested in the client literally asking the host who rejected her initially, hey, why did you reject me? But it goes deeper than that, because it's not just to do with this specific strategy when it comes to podcast guesting. It's to do with everything that you try to do when you grow your podcast. If you're posting on social media and you've been posting on social media for the last, let's say, 2 years, and you've had your show live for 2 years, and you've been consistent, and it's not working, ask yourself the question, why? Why isn't it working? And we often see that when you start asking the questions why, you start coming up with different answers. Right. Not all of them will be right. Most of them might be wrong, but you then start coming up with different ideas of why isn't it working. Oh, is it because I'm not talking to a specific avatar I want to promote? Okay, let me make my promotions more targeted, right? Is it because I'm posting all the time on TikTok when my audience are business owners who are well educated and are in the professional space, so maybe I should be on LinkedIn?
Is it maybe just because the quality isn't that good? Okay, I'll just try a better one next time.
And is it just because social media is a crap way and simply doesn't work to help you grow your podcast?
There's no hidden agendas in this episode.
Absolutely none. But asking that question why allowed you to unravel some actual real life solutions rather than you feeling like you're just trapped, stuck in the same cycle, doing the same annoying shit over and over again, producing incredible content that you're super passionate about, but you're not reaching the right listeners. You bloody know, right, that you have so much potential, but for some reason, the show isn't reflecting that. And the question is, why? So look, our massive encouragement to you is really that. Keep reflecting, look and turn, like, why isn't things working? Come up with answers for yourself and then test those things out. Don't just stay in this place where you feel powerless. What good is that, mate?
Exactly. And I think there's maybe some, I honestly never know where it comes from, but there is some propaganda about coming into podcasting. It's going to be easy. It's going to be smooth sailing.
You make episodes and they'll come.
Right. And we know that's not the case, but also that's not the case with anything, right?
I sit down and talk with my friends and the podcast will grow.
That's a classic. But that's not even the case with any business venture, is it? With social media or anything like that. And in any endeavor, if you're not willing to be a problem solver, if you're not willing to have some resilience, even if you're at the end of your wits already running the business, the main part of the business, with a family, with other stuff going on in your personal life, the harsh truth is that you still have to have the resilience and the patience and the wherewithal to ask yourself why and make changes if you want the podcast to grow, given it's not always going to be smooth sailing.
And even more importantly, man, most people, when you have a podcast, you also have a business that you're running. You have a team that you're taking care of.
Yeah.
You've got money that you need to be making on a consistent basis. And you also have your family, your personal life, just things that's going on that, let's be honest, your team members don't know about, your partner might not even know about, and you have to deal with those things internally, whether that's business or personal wise. To add on top of that, the podcast that you're managing, you've invested all this time into. Like, if you're going to spend any second, any minute on the show, at least have some clarity around why you're doing what you're doing, but more specifically, how you're going to take things to the next level, right? Because you're already strapped for time. So if you're going to do this, do it properly. And it starts with asking the question, why? Why isn't my podcast growing as fast as it could be? So look, I hope we've drilled into this importance of really asking the question why. And maybe for yourself, the answer why your podcast isn't growing is because you don't really know what steps you're meant to be taking. You don't really have clarity around where you should be going, where to focus your attention. You don't really have a strategy to consistently grow your audience, reach a new audience, and turn those listeners into paying clients for your business.
Exactly.
And if that's a strategy piece, if you feel like, hey, look, that really is what I'm missing, like that's the conclusion. I'm just guessing, I'm not really too sure. So look, if you're thinking to yourself, okay, how are entrepreneurs and experts with podcasts, growing rapidly because you see it happening, and how are some of them able to make, $12,000 or more in as little as 90 days, even with a tiny audience below, let's say 1,000 monthly downloads, and you want to know the exact strategies that we're personally actively taking with our clients and we've actively used to generate $120,000 in profit in the last 9 months, we've created a very specific training to help you get unstuck, to help you have that clarity, to help you see a strategy to perfectly grow and monetize your show. So for that, you can go to that training at
getmorelisteners.com/grow and monetize. The link is in the description and show notes of this podcast.
And look, if you enjoyed this video, hey, hit a like, hit a subscribe. Let us know down below if you have any more questions, and also what your conclusion is to why your podcast isn't growing.